All right, guys, so I am back. I've gone to the store. I've gotten everything I think I need to be able to do this job. I've got more than enough wire. Kind of went overkill a little bit. And so altogether, I think I need a little bit less than 100 feet. If I end up needing more, I will be plenty covered. I've got a total of 150. I did go ahead and pick up a circuit breaker. I don't know if I'm actually going to be using that, but circuit breaker, a relay. So I'm probably going to be running off of a ignition switch in the relay box, and then have that as my relay to my power bank that I'm going to be running everything to. So I'm going to go ahead and start prepping and getting things where they need to be, and just kind of seeing what's going to be the first step. But I'm probably going to be lining up the wires that I do have actually already ready to go that are good, and getting those hooked up to the battery bank first initially, so then I can just kind of go down the process of elimination of what's next. All right, guys, so I've been working here for some time now, getting things hooked up. I've got all the cord ready to go. I do have my first two lines run to the power bank here. This first one right here, the positive and the negative, are what's going to be fueling my auxiliary fuel tank into my main tank. So that's number one. And then number two is my aftermarket AirDog 2. So number one and number two are going to be what does all of my fuel. I wanted to have those at the beginning, so that if there was a fuel issue, something going on, that I could address those a little better grouping together. So I've got these all put together here. I do have the cobweb spider mess of cords back here, zip tied a little cleaner. I might be able to wedge things a little further down there when it's all said and done, but for now they are secure right there. It's already looking better. And you know, the truth is, our truck is essentially our biggest tool, our biggest asset. If this thing isn't running right, if things are sloppy, if things are run down, that's a representation on us, how our work ethic is. You know, what is a DOT officer going to say when, yeah, you could have had things all put together, but instead it was just a pile of wires. If it was just a, you know, just big mess, you know, some people might just outsource that to somebody else, but I choose not to. And when I choose not to, I then take that responsibility of making sure everything is actually how it needs to be. This has just kind of been a discouraging process, but also a challenge for me to level up and to get things where they should be for once, and for things to be looking really clean. And it just horrifies me to think of how long things have not been where they should be. So enough ranting, but I did just want to share that with you. My next thing that I'm doing right now is I've actually already run the 7-pin line. It's a 10 gauge wire all the way back. It goes all the way down there. And something that I actually used was a marshmallow stake to be able to put this all the way down in there to reach the cord to drag it down there. So that's just kind of my redneck engineering situation over here, where I'm just feeding the cords down, feeding the cord back up, then needed to come back up as well earlier. So this has just kind of been a slow process for me. In my mind, in my mind, I feel like this should have just taken a very short amount of time. But the truth is, it does take quite a bit of time to get this stuff done, to have confidence and make sure things run the right way. So right now I'm just kind of learning to take my time to get this done right and have it done once and not have to come back to it, and to not have any regrets that I cut corners. This 7-pin line that's going to go to the 7-way plug in the back, that's run all the way back there right now. I'm going to cut the cord and be able to tie this in to my actual connection there. That's going to be run off the power bank as well. And then after that 7-pin, I'm going to be running another 10 gauge wire all the way back for the lights, for those LED lights. And actually here are the lights that I'm going to be using. It's the 4-inch 8 LED work light, 2400 lumens. I don't know if you can actually see that, but this is the actual setup right here. It's got its own little bolt there to plug into, and the connection there. And then on the other side of it, this just kind of connects there, and then it's got the positive and negative lead there. So this is going to be pretty handy to be able to just mount this, and then later get this all connected, wired through, and then get this just to be plugged in right into there. So that'll be what's coming up next after I get that second wire run all the way back through the truck. All right, guys, so it's actually the next day, and I just wanted to share with you, you know, how long this has taken. Seems just like absolutely ridiculous, but for me, being able to find out the voltage, obviously with the amperage, how long of the cords that I'm going to the back of the truck, and making sure that it's actually the proper gauge for what I'm doing, for the amps that it's going to be calling for. It's been a lot of numbers and a lot of writing things down, figuring things out that way, and I really just wanted to make sure the back end of all this has been done correctly. I'm at about the halfway point. I've got a little bit more to go here before things really start looking like they're coming together, at least. So I'm going to go ahead and get everything run to the back of the truck that needs to be run, and then I can actually start doing the work back there that needs to be actually connected to the 7-pin or the actual LED lights and all those things back there. So I'll go ahead and do that. All right, guys, so I am underneath the back here. Got my LED light already mounted. It's not completely exactly where the angle is going to be yet, but we'll get there soon enough. This does come with a little harness, and that just connects to this side of the harness. So I'll plug it in when I got everything put together. Right now I currently have the negative, or the ground. I'm going to go ahead and get this shrink stuff already on here so that this will seal. There we go, and there we go. So I probably did a little too much there, but that'll be just fine. It is definitely sealed all the way. I'll wait for this to cool down, and then I'm going to bolt this ring connector somewhere underneath here to the metal to where we can be fully grounded. And then I'll go ahead and get the power line run across to the left side where the actual line is run all the way to the front of the truck. All right, guys, so I've got my rear right LED light plugged in. I've got the ground there. I am using all red wire, so you know, pretty easy to tell, you know, what's the ground, what's not. I may go ahead and label it just to be, you know, above board and have everything you know, ridiculously organized there, but pretty easy to see. I've got the I don't know if you can actually see that, but over that little cross member there, it all connects there, and then the wire comes across here, goes behind. Yeah, you really can't see that, sorry. Oh, there we go. Wire comes across here, behind here. Both of the positives connect here. I'm going to be zip tying all this together. I've got my backup camera wire here, my 7-pin wire here. So all this is going to come together, be zip tied together in some type of harness looking thing here. I've got my ground for the 7-pin and ground for this LED light as well. I don't actually have these, you know, angled or tightened up to where I want them to be, but eventually I will have them. Basically, we are pretty much done in the back here. Everything is run correctly. All the wires are good to go. Everything's been you know, resealed and everything put together. So I'm actually very happy with this setup. Also, you could probably tell I had those three, rear marker lights or whatever you want to call it. This shorted out a long time ago up here, and that's originally why I added that light bar across the whole back, but I just kind of took this down and I'm just not going to be using it. So then I'll be getting all this cleaned up here. Let's see if you can see back over here. I've got a lot of wires going through here. I've got my airbags as well, so everything's going to be zip tied correctly now to where you can actually see through there, and nothing's going to be pinched or smushed or anything. So this is looking pretty good back here for me. I'll move on to the next step further up in the truck. All right, guys, so I can't remember what I actually just filmed last, but essentially I've got my 7-pin wired all the way. I've got my LED lights wired all the way. I've got both my fuel auxiliary tank and my fuel pump that's replacing the manufacturer pump. I've got all those lines run all the way, ready to go right into the power bank. So the last two things that have been an issue that I've been dreading and I've just been putting off and hating to have to go back into it, but is my airlift for my airbags, that system, and then my actual on-air air compressor on-air system, whatever you want to call it. I've gone through the user manuals. I've gone through the schematics following all the wires. The on-air system requires the 2 relays. Getting everything tied into the right place has been a real big headache for me. Following a whole bunch of wires in a small contained area in my bed has been just a big headache for me. I'm sure there's a better way to do it, but essentially what I did was I put a toolbox next to my fifth wheel. I bolted that toolbox down to the bed. Then I've got my airlift system bolted to the side, and then I've got my 2 compressors inside that toolbox, and I'll show that in another video coming up here. So essentially I've got all that put together. I've got both relays that go to those compressors, and then everything's run, power straight to the front of the truck. There's a switch. There is a air switch to kill the power when it hits 200 psi. That's the max what it's supposed to go to. As soon as it drops below 165, that's when both compressors are supposed to kick back on. So I've got that whole system in there. There's quite a bit of wires in there between all the power, the grounds, and just it's a lot of moving parts, a lot of wires. And for me, it's been a real headache having to go through the user manuals and just making sure that I've got everything run the right way. Nothing's going to catch fire. Nothing's going to be touching what it shouldn't be touching. So I'm going to have to go through there with a lot of zip ties, making sure everything is in the right place. But once I'm done with it, it should be looking really good. I've got all the wires run all the way to the front of the truck. The only thing after I get that all put together is going to be the plow actuator. That shouldn't be a real issue. That's just at the front of the truck. It should be very easy to run just to the front there. So pretty easy setup for that. The last issue after that, after all the power's run, put together, is going to be my air lines. Some of my air lines have had a little kinks in them, which means if you get an air leak at all, you're wasting your time. You're going to be burning up your compressors because they're going to be running all the more often. And so this is something that I need to address, to replace. I've got a boatload of new airline, so just going ahead and replacing that airline shouldn't be too bad. So I've got the 7-pin in the back. I've got the LEDs. I've got the air compressor system. I've got the air bag system. I've got my fuel auxiliary tank. I've got my fuel pump. I've got my plow actuator, and I think that's everything. If I can go LED lights, yeah. So that should be it. And I'm hoping this is the last time I'm gonna have to fiddle with this at all. I'm sure there are gonna be, some little kinks in the road down the way, but I think I did a really solid job with all the connections. Nothing's loose. I did use my little Butane Torch to get all the heat shrink connectors tightened down, so they're very tough, and all the connections are pretty good. So I wish I was able to show more of this stuff to you guys, but I just wasn't able to. It's just really hands-on, and so just hopefully talking through these kind of things maybe can be a help to you. If you would like a more in-depth response or a reason why I did this or that, let me know down in the comments below. I'd love to try to be a help if I can. Going through the user manuals and finding out all the right fuses fuses, the relays, what amperage, all these different things are so important to stay safe if you are dealing with electricity and amps and things that can start fires. And so this was a serious endeavor for me. It's taken several days, and to a certain degree I'm kind of embarrassed how long it took. But at the end of the day, I'm making this investment for my truck that I don't have to do this again for a long time, if ever, and essentially to have peace of mind while going down the road, as well as at the DOT weigh station. If there were to be an issue, if they said, hey, what's going on with this? I want to know that, hey, I've done this by the book. I followed all of the instructions for each system, and things are done correctly and securely, and there's no, cutting corners. And so that'll wrap up the video for today. Hopefully this has helped you. Stay safe, guys, and God bless.